Welcome to our third track for the day on vocational skills. Our moderator for this session, Ms. Preeta Ajit, Senior Career Counselor and Mentor Trainer at Ideal Career. A practicing career counselor, she comes with an experience of 8 years in teaching and 7 years in counseling. Academically, she holds a double post-graduation in organizational behavior as well as counseling and psychotherapy. In the niche area of career counseling, since last year, she is empaneled with the National Career Services too. She holds certificates in career guidance and counseling, career coaching, executive and life coaching, and student counseling. Also, she is a certified psychometric testing professional. We welcome you to the session, ma'am.
Thank you, Divya. Thank you so much.
The other panelists for this session, Rajiv GK, Director at Suprajeev Technical and Management Studies, Private Limited, K. Rajiv Narayan, Founder and Leadership Partner at the Leadership Elements Private Limited, Sriram Ranganathan, Training and Retention Head at Raptor Technologies India, Abhishek J, Student at Government Tool Room and Training Center, Mysore. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Divya. Thank you so much. So, good afternoon, dear panelists.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Peter.
I'm sure with the expertise and knowledge the panelists hold, our audience would really be enriched by this session. The main objective of the session is to provide opportunity to the youth to understand the vocational sector beyond its current challenges and also to explore their views. Just to put it, let us try and focus the conversation around talent gaps, impact of technology, need for soft skills, and workplace presentation. We will take the discussion around 45 minutes approximately and 15 minutes of Q&A. Hope that sounds good. Is it echoing? Can others turn on mute? I think it's echoing. To set the pace of the discussion, let me share a few inputs. As we all know, India is recognized as one of the youngest nations in the world with over 50% of the population under 30 years. It is estimated that by about 2025, India will have 30% of the total global population. It is also estimated that by 2022, it's just 2 years now from now, India will have the maximum number of working age population. About 2% of India's current workforce has formal vocational training and 9% have non-formal vocational training. Just a disclaimer to add, as this is a technology-enabled discussion, request everyone to bear with the unintentional lapses if any. So on that note, my first question is to Mr. Abhishek, our student from Government Tool Room, Mysore. Online learning, how are vocational courses justified, which is mainly 60% practical and 40% content? Over to you, Abhishek.
Okay, yeah, it is very much justified and very useful because you need to have both theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge, because you can't live off just knowing one part of the course, and you can't work for your whole career just knowing theory. You have to know where to apply it, and even practically you have to know some theoretical knowledge just to to progress forward or carry forward your work in a very fashionable way, or in a very good way. So I think having more hands-on experience to what you're working on gives you more confidence in what you're working, and also gives you more knowledge and new experiences, because the more hands-on experience you have, you make more mistakes, and we learn from our mistakes, and we can use those practical experiences to use it theoretically to make our product or our company or our job description a little better. So I think it's really important, having hands-on experience.
So that means, does it also imply, Abhishek, that because now the course has gone online, So there is some hindrance that you are facing on the practical portion of it.
Yes, the practical portion of it has faced a big hit now, because for me personally, my practical exams also have not been conducted as yet, because of the current COVID situation. Plus, my course being 60% practical, basically there's nothing to do. Because if you're conducting online classes for a course which is 60% practical, 70% practical, there's basically nothing you can conduct, and becomes very very difficult unless you're present with your teacher, like face to face or in a proper class.
Thanks, Abhishek. That's really helpful for us to take it further. So we have Mr. Rajiv, the Director of Suprajeev Technical and Management Studies. From an industrial professional outlook, how do you foresee the future of skilling sector? What do we need to get better at?
See, ultimately it is skills which is going to save an individual, which is the skills which is going to also help an individual scale up. Now, primarily the individual must understand today that an individual can gain. See, the meaning of the word skill is expertise, but and an individual can really start gaining expertises in multiple ways. Maybe too good at one area, maybe little better at another area. Okay, can understand certain things. So, an individual must really understand that once you put in an effort, skill comes through effort and practice. So you can choose your skill, you can choose your expertise. And the best part is that the more you get skill in any area, you become more independent, and skill is your asset. And if you really see with skill being your asset, you become more independent. And the more independent you are, the more you invest in yourself, people will start investing in you. So the more you have to understand is that how you invest in yourself. You invest in time, you invest in, see, small thing I can tell you in this pandemic, one of the things I was really struggling with was to prepare a small, poster for my own trainings. I had to depend on so many people at what cost. One small post, some of my students used to help me in time, but how much can I depend on them? The small poster designing gave me so much of leverage and freedom to really perform to great extent. I'm independent. I can work at 2 o'clock in the night now. I can work at any time. So the more you add on, the more freedom you have to perform. The more freedom you get to perform. So, nowadays what is happening is, now you look at it, I'm sure I was not interfering in some of the panelists, but still I'm saying, now if you look at IoT, it is integrated now with machines like additive manufacturing and all. My friend Abhishek will be able to appreciate. Now, new machines are coming with new technologies from diverse fields. So mechanical engineering is now connected with IoT, Internet of Things. Now, Internet of Things may be from computers or from the electronics background. So it's very simple for you to understand IoT now. So if a person really forgets, does not think that, skilling is for brilliant people only, can come out of that and can understand that skill means expertise. Expertise comes from practice, and practice gives you experience. Then if you understand this one line, you start developing multiple skills. So modern technology is coming with, TeamViewer is a software which was used to make, repair the hardware of a machine, if I understood it right. But today, TeamViewers are now used in additive manufacturing machine now. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to have an open mind. You have to have an open mind, don't have restrictions, and you'll find that you go in multiple ways. Simple communication, you can use it as a skill now. You can become a trainer, you can become an author, you can become a good marketing person. You get the board. See, even by being skilled, you can even become a fine entrepreneur. You get the guts to stand on your own. The rest are pooling in resources. But the main thing, so skilling thereby has got a phenomenal opportunity. Sky is not the limit, I can say. Post-COVID, I will say, pre-COVID, it was sky is the limit. Now sky is not the limit.
Thanks,
Ocean.
Yeah, so here, are you specifically categorizing functional skills as well and differentiating between functional and personal people skills?
See, what is functional skill? I really invite all people to come to basics, B2B, back to basics, then back to business, right? Fundamentally, let us understand the meaning of everything. And once you understand the meaning of everything, only you can scale up. Otherwise, it simply means an exaggeration. See, functional skills means what I've learned: A, B, C, D, E, F. They are alphabets. Now I'm applying that A, B, C, D, right, in my life. I'm writing a letter, I'm drafting a memo, I'm writing a manual, I'm writing a storybook, I'm writing a fiction book, I'm writing a textbook. So I'm applying alphabets. So the minute I'm starting applying what you learned, things starts becoming functional. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I have learned numbers. Now I'm learning to add 2 plus 3 is 5, 5 plus 8 is this much, 8 minus 2 is 6, and 8 into 4 is 32. Now I've learned all this. Now I'm going to the shop, and then I'm going to the shop, I'm giving 100 rupees, the item is 20 rupees, I'm taking back 80 rupees. So I'm applying mathematics. I'm applying mathematics in balance sheet. I'm applying mathematics to calculate profits. This is functional skills. So this comes to where I'm applying my learning. Okay. So now if you see personal skills, when you say all this personal skills will be, if you're referring to communication or things like that, or writing, all this comes by sheer practice. Right? There's a very beautiful expression in Sanskrit. If I'm allowed to use that expression in Sanskrit, it's very beautifully says kalam, prayatnam, daivam.
Time.
Kalam, time. Everything you have to give it a time. And to start now is time. After this program, I can start rethinking into a new skill. For the audience who are listening to me now, after this program, you can start a new skill. That's kalam. Prayatnam. Prayatnam is appropriate effort. What management today calls it as smart work instead of hard work. Right? So it is prayatnam, which is appropriate effort. Kalam, prayatnam, daivam. Daivam, right, we say, is grace. Fortune favors the brave. In modern management, if you say fortune favors the brave. Now, once you start attempting and once you start going further, progressing, right, there is this beautiful book, right, called The Secret, which says the minute you start giving to universe will start supporting you in some way or the other. You get some form of support, some people, somehow, some source, some resource, right, will come from somewhere, something to help you. But my invitation to all the audience, right, who are listening here, my friends, please decide on one item: communication. One item, column. Take a PPT, we call it as peak performance time. Decide on a time, and you decide on a time, and on that time, 5 to 6 in the morning, you decide on this time. Work on that time. And then you see all your tough matters becomes very simple at that time. Becomes very simple for you at that time. And take these things, and without these things, really skills will never happen. Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Rajiv. On
I
that
hope
note,
I hope I'm answering your question or not
yes,
deviating.
definitely yes. Thank you so much. So, Mr. Narayan, the next question I would like to put it across to you. Um, as an institutional professional in the panel, according to you, which are the skills that will bring new opportunities, lead innovation and growth in skilling sector?
All right, thank you for that. I would want to step back a little bit and get into the space of what Rajiv spoke. Very interesting perspectives from his side. I'll probably draw a thread from what he said and then answer your question if that's permitted. First of all, he brought in the book Secret of Rhonda Byrne. So thank you so much for getting the book there. He spoke about the fact that he had to create a poster and he had to depend on the student to create a poster, right? When I heard these two from him, it just takes me back to my father. My father is a civil servant, retired. He's currently 76. He lives with me. Because he was a civil servant in the government, he always had the chauffeur-driven ambassador car to take him all along. Never felt the need to learn driving, and never did learn driving. He realized how handicapped he was after he retired. He had to ensure that he picks a house in a place where he can go to things around by walk. He doesn't have to drive. He came to Bangalore from Hyderabad. When I asked him to move with me, he was struggling because he couldn't do anything independently because of one reason: he does not know driving. As he started aging, he started feeling very bad that he should have picked up the skill long time back. And Mr. Rajiv spoke about the poster. Probably he has not prepared posters, boys have done. Hence, that's a skill that was not required during his younger days because that was not the era in which that was required. Today, we need to be on social media, we need to do that. So the requirement probably makes him feel that I should have learned to make a poster. Just trying to tie the dots and tell that skill is absolutely important, as you rightly said, right? I'll come to the future question of yours, Preeta, in a while, but I fundamentally believe in a cycle of learning. If you go, 4 quadrants are there. If you take the first quadrant, it's attitude. The second quadrant is knowledge. The third is skill. And the fourth, when you persistently follow the skill, it becomes a habit. So even if you take a cyclic movement of a cycle of learning, it starts with attitude. And I always keep talking about this, how much ever skill is important and fundamental. And all the boys and girls listening to this particular talk from us should understand that before the skill, your attitude matters tremendously. You may have great skills, but your skills and your functional knowledge, as a study by Harvard done almost 15-20 years back, attributes to only 23% of your growth. The balance 77 is your ability to communicate, interact with the environment. The point I'm trying to say is this particular statistic applied good, it applies good, it will continue to apply good. Which means, and I've been in the automobile space, I was leading the learning and development for TVS Motor Company. So I've seen vocational training, I've seen boys and girls working on the plant, multiple roles, right? They're all great. But I think beyond the skill that they need to acquire, which anyway the college is going to give them, what is lacking? And I've seen this on multiple interview panels. Great skills, but what is missing is the softer bit of applying the skill, which is what Mr. Rajiv also spoke about. It's not about 1, 2, 3, how do I apply it there? Now, I think if you go to your question of what are the skills required, I'll still answer it from a behavioral perspective. Today is 12th of August, incidentally 3 days before 15th August. And on 15th of August, 1989 was this great book written by Stephen Covey called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I'll pick up 3 habits, I leave the other ones. Habit 1, being proactive. Habit 2, beginning with the end in mind. And finally, habit 7, sharpening the saw, which is continuous learning, are 3 skills which I think are eternally relevant. Whether you want to be futuristic, whether you want to have a growth mindset, whether you want to move from a deterministic view of things to a free will, to be able to innovate, to be able to grow as the future that you asked as a question, I think these 3 habits, or these 3, I'll use skill just for the learning perspective and context that we're talking about, as fundamentally important. Being proactive, beginning with an end in mind, and always sharpening the saw. I think boys and girls of the current generation who are listening to us, should be very clearly aware of this loop. Else, they would pick up great functional skills, but they may falter to deliver. And I think it's not about getting the first job by becoming a good carpenter or becoming a good teacher or becoming a good whatever. It's about rising up the ladder, right? So once you get the first job, that is where the 23 has played. After which the 24, 25, 26 till the 100, rest all plays. Yeah.
Thanks, thanks, Mr. Narayan, for that elaborate and the message that could actually reach out to the youngsters listening to this. And now, Mr. Sriram, the training and retention head, Raptor Technologies India, we have here as our youth professional. I would want some inputs from you. Can you share your thoughts on how does the future look like from the youth perspective with specific reference to vocational skilling, specifically from a youth perspective? Can you please unmute yourself? Thank you.
Are you able to hear me now? Is it audible?
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Well, I basically, to start with your question, from a youth perspective, I handle this skill training in my current organization as well. And prior to this, I was working in Saint Gobain, for about 5 years, and I was handling the skill training over there as well. The first thing that I noticed, which these esteemed panelists were just talking about, was the attitude of the youth. I was mainly catering to the market of the northeastern states like Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland. So we used to go there, hire the skilled laborers, we give them training, skilled training. We bring them back to the southern states like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, employ them in various, construction sites or, IT offices, MNCs, whatever it is, depending on the skills. One thing which we have noticed is the attitude between the people from there and the people here down south. So, last week we went to Guwahati, to start a new batch. We were given a target of bringing in 15 new people, and we wanted to place them in Infosys in Chennai. That was our target. So when we went there, to Guwahati, we had a meeting with the local, MLA and people like that through teleconferencing. So one thing which we understood is that generally the youth over there, and also in the states of Bihar and Jharkhand, the youth over there, all that they want is one meal a day. That is their goal in life. They're ready to acquire any skills, be it technical skills, interpersonal skills, communicational skills, soft skills, any type of skills related to their job or related to their personality development. They don't have any hesitation. They don't have any kind of, they feel free to talk about it. They are open to admit it. But when we see the youth from developed states like Tamil Nadu or Karnataka or even Maharashtra for that matter, they're really hesitant. If I quote another example, there is a construction site that is there right next to my office in Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. I have people who are working as laborers, skilled people, whom we have trained and who are working as laborers. They're earning about 6,000, 7,000 rupees a week. At the same time, I have graduates who have completed their BE graduation, civil engineering or EEE, and who are working for a salary of 6,000 per month. The reason is they're not ready to acquire any other additional skills. Correct. They have their attitude, as Narayan sir said, they have their attitude in place, but it's in the wrong place. They do not want to acquire any skills. They want to sit in the room, under the AC. They want to, dominate people. This is not happening. The youth, to a certain extent, are being led in the wrong way. But thanks to this corona, this COVID pandemic, people have lost their jobs and things like that. I find daily when I open the newspapers, I find that, sports players, selling fruits on carts, or, probably the IT people who were developers and technicians, they're now selling fish for a living. So when they are forced to do it, right now they don't have an option. They're forced to do it. They're ready to accept. But why is it that they're not accepting it on a normal course of matter? Why is that attitude blocking, their perspective? Just like they're running a race, all that they see is how soon can I go to the front. They're not seeing on a broader perspective as to, okay, if I acquire another skill, or if I acquire another a technique or some sort of knowledge, it will help me in a longer run. But no, right now the youth of this generation, which is Gen Z that I talk about, are only running a race. Their attitude is what matters. So people like me, who are dealing with organizations where we give the skill training, we impart the skill training to youth, will have to ensure that the attitude or the perspective in which the youth these days see their future or see their career prospects is changed. Because otherwise, as these gentlemen said, it's going to be it takes time to break the ice. It would take some time for that.
Thanks, Sriram. Thank you so much.
You're
Here,
welcome.
when you were speaking, yes, Rajiv, you would want to add something there?
Yeah, I think that's a nice perspective Sriram brought in, and I definitely don't want to build onto it and make the audience feel that the current youth are bad and they don't have the right attitude. I don't think Sriram is intending to say that, but definitely the youth are in a hurry, and they are wanting to pick up skills, get out of the job quickly. I remember this very powerful statement that Sadhguru said. When you're hungry, that's your only problem. When your stomach is full, you have rest all problems.
Yes.
That's what I think Sriram was talking about, the people in the Guwahati and other places. And I've lived in Guwahati, so I understand. They don't have one full clothing to cover their body. And for them, it's just about one meal. So I think what pushes them and prods them is that one job. And they're ready to do any damn thing on this universe. But when you're in a bit of a comfort zone, probably you start saying, I'll pick up this skill against the other one because this seems to be better, because this gives me a 9,000 versus the other one gives me a 6K. I think that mindset is what I'm also talking about as attitude. If they can bridge that and look at one thing as learning, as an eternal element of growth for them, majority of their perspectives towards life, towards work would change.
Yeah.
If
Sriram?
I could
Yes, sir. Please.
even just drawing cue from Mr. Sriram and Mr. Rajiv Narayan. See, today, like I have been to St. Govind many a times to do the Train the Trainer program there, both in their Chennai unit and in their, one of the units in Gujarat. Okay, so I've done about 8 programs there. Now, I've seen they invest a lot in skilling. And in fact, the youth which, one of the programs, and I went for the Train the Trainer program, well, I addressed even the youth there in their Chennai plan. Okay, I think it's called Learn and Earn or something like that. They had, one invitation I have to all the people who are here. Today, the best opportunity you have is to create something new. Like you're doing this webinar itself. Now, this webinar itself, how can you do it differently? Now, things like this, platforms like this exist. Platforms like this exist. You have, this is the key mark. How can you do this differently? How can you do it differently? Anything what you can do, how can you do it a bit differently? Today, the opportunity lies here. How can you really do anything and anything? How can we do it really differently? Like your spectacles. What can you do it? Anything you see in front, how can you create something new? No, and with the enormous amount of opportunity we have, like I see some Facebook posts, some posts on LinkedIn, which says, I want help in this area. Right? Today, can anyone of any age, can they take advantage of these opportunities, networking opportunities? Like as Mr. Narayan very rightly said, at one point of time, I don't want the skill of posters. Today I need this. what I didn't want some time back, I need it today. It's important for me today. So that way, my invitation to all the audiences listening here, anytime the mind sees, the eye sees, the mind perceives. So the minute I see something, can I see how can I create something new out of this webinar itself? How I can make something new? What is, if we can think like this, that's a phenomenal opening. Now, as rightly said by Mr. Sriram and Mr. Rajiv Narayan, you need the ask, ASK, the attitude, without which there is no push.
Thank you so much. So, Mr. Sriram, so I would want to go one step further from there where you left. So you were speaking about attitude while the selection process happens, or whenever you are recruiting boys or girls, candidates, I would rather put it like that. So have you ever, how is the aptitude of these children or these candidates done? So is there any screening mechanism in which the aptitude is also taken into consideration, or you randomly pick them and then train them? And some would pick it up very fast, some would go it in a very slow pace. Might be a slow, if I can just relatively use the word slow learner there, not in the technical term of it, but relatively. So do you have any aptitude screening test assessment program that you relate to your selection process?
So Ms. Preeta, the first thing that we do is we follow the protocols laid down by NSDC,
okay.
National Skills Development Corporation. So NSDC has laid down a set of rules and protocols in place which we need to follow while we hire or train candidates. The second thing what we follow is the rules and regulations set by our respective state. So this NSDC regulations is applicable for the entire country. But if I would like to hire youth from Uttar Pradesh for the matter, the rules and regulations of UP Skill Development Board will be different from what it is for Bihar Skill Development Mission. So right now, I would say, yes, there is a separate screening mechanism for all the states in place. Because of this COVID pandemic, you would see, you would have heard that people were walking back to their hometowns on foot, hundreds of kilometers away. So these states have now woken up, especially Bihar and Uttar Pradesh and Jharkhand. So what they have done is those people who are migrant laborers or who are migrant, they have set a testing method in place. So the first thing that they check is, are you really keen in doing a specific job? They don't test directly their technical attitude or their aptitude or their logical reasoning. No. Are you willing to do this job or not? Because if I give a job to a person who is from a developed state, they would not do it. So rather, I would first see if the person is really eligible for it. The second thing that I see is, has he completed a basic level of education? Say, for example, if I'm employing a person in a construction site as a mason or as a carpenter, to understand what the tools are or to see the diagrams, he should have at least completed 8th standard. Right? So I will have to analyze, yes, does he have the respective educational qualification for that? The third thing that I see is, would he stick on? If I give him an employment, would he stick on for 2 years or 1 year? So these are the three main things that most of the governments, set as a criteria. Once the candidate clears these three set of criteria, depending upon the organization who is going to hire these people, they have a set of psychologists who will understand the aptitude or who will understand the logical reasoning ability of these candidates, depending on the requirement of the organization, the specific organization. So that is a secondary part. So some organizations would not require that. They will directly hire the candidates and, irrespective of where they stand in their technical knowledge or the subject knowledge, they will give the training right from the scratch. So say, for example, Saint Gobain as an organization, they would not require any technical knowledge. They give the complete knowledge, your soft skills, your communication skills, your interpersonal skills, even your attitude, how to maintain attitude, how to talk to your clients, how to talk to another person. Everything is taught from the scratch. And what we also mainly do is, when we have this system called as Gurukul, where these candidates come to this hostel, they stay there for 1 complete month without any contact with the outer world. It is run by our retired army officials as matrons or principal. The reason being, not just technical skill is imparted, but also the disciplinary skill is imparted to them. They wake up at 5 o'clock. They're made to clean their own rooms. They clean their own toilets. They cook their food. They do the gardening, the landscaping. They're disciplined in that way as well. And another thing, which you might have noticed, I'm not sure if it is right or wrong to say. One attitude with the candidates in North India is they eat pan and they just spit it randomly everywhere. This bad habit of gutka and pan. So we have ensured that we remove that attitude from them completely. So once they're done with this 1 month of training, the skill development training, the moment they see this pan or gutka packet, they just stay 10 feet away from that. They don't even think of touching that again in their life. So that is the kind of training that we, when we talk about skill development, or when we talk about, training these candidates, it's just not the technical part of it. Again, you're not supposed to drink alcohol and go and beat your family members. That is another thing that we teach them. Yes, you drink alcohol once in a while. Yes, you want to be happy, you drink it, but that should not be an aversion for you. You should change your habits. So every single thing, right? Say, for example, for us, those candidates are students. They're children for us. So how do you talk to a child, a LKG child or a first standard child, saying that these are the good habits, these are the bad habits? You segregate that. That is how we talk to them. And that is what ensures the success of the skill training. So if you go and ask NSDC about this Gurukul program, they say, yes, this is the feature that we are looking for. It's not about only the technical aspect, but all the interpersonal skills should also be taken care of, which will definitely enhance the all-round development of a candidate. Our aim is not only to secure a job for the person. He should enhance in his life. He should grow ahead in his life. This career prospect that we are giving for him, maybe for the next 1 year or 2 years down the line, he would work in that. After that, he would want to set up his own departmental store. He would want to set up his own, hotel or roadside dhaba. It all depends upon him. So we have to ensure that, as skill development, we'll have to ensure that it is an all-round development for the candidate and not just the technical aspect. So, coming back to your question, when you asked what is it that we check, it's complete. It's a complete package that we look into.
Thanks, Sriram. Thanks for that. So I would just want to add on that. So I was recently reading a report on KPMG, published by, studied by KPMG. So in which they had told of the 74% who get placed after a skill training, when you really go back, 20% is only left there. Yeah. So the rest have all gone out. They don't, they don't continue there for whatever reasons. And it is not that they got somewhere newly placed, but they just drop out for, not, noted reasons. So that is also one major thing. On that note, Abhishek, if I'm audible to you, then do you think in your, tool room where you are studying, in your classroom, there are candidates who are, who are forced to get into the course, or who don't have the required skill sets but are starting from the scratch, or don't have the aptitude for tool and dyeing? Have you come across your classmates like that? Abhishek, are you there? So I don't think Abhishek is able to hear us. So might be there is some technical issue. So, so here I would want to ask.
Yeah, can I answer that a bit?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, there is a problem like this, that some people are not interested and they are forced to join. That is a very little in number. but the greater number is the attitude issue. Like many of them don't want to work. If they're asked to work on a machine, plan to work on a machine for for 5 days, for 8 hours a day, 6th day he is missing. Even the police cannot trace him.
Okay.
So to that extent, they really go. If you recruit 100 of these people, only 10 will be remaining.
Yes.
So that very few people are forced, but majority of them are the people who don't want to leave their hometown, who who want to and they are satisfied with meager things, and all these kind of things only comment. But the people who really stick on and slog it out, okay, and they really make it.
Again, attitude matters.
Oh, yeah, very much. Very much. The willingness to explore, the willingness to slog. You have to have, like Abdul Kalam Saab said, you need to have fire in the belly, not ice in the belly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So on that note, I would really want to come to the most popularly spoken about in this, especially in this, post-COVID times or during this COVID times. So the government has announced a 20 trillion economic package on Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, or we can call it a self-reliant India mission. Considering the present geopolitical stand of India, how would you want to, share your thoughts on that, Mr. Rajiv Narayan?
As the word itself says, Atmanirbhar.
Yes.
It starts with you, no? Right. Now, if it doesn't begin with you, right? Now, where can the products come out? It has to. That's where the very beautiful statement also goes in English. Charity begins at home. Right. Now, you have to really think, right, that yes, I can do something new. And if you look at any person, you look at Henry Ford, yes, I can do something new. You look at Wright brothers, yes, I can do something new. Right? All these people were not scared to explore, experiment, and experience. All these people were. So can we really look at this? Then there's Atmanirbhar. All these things work out. All these things work out. You can create products on your own and then sell it. Yes, today there's a lot of encouragement for that. But for which you have to start with your self. The self is important. And the self creating something new. That if self starts, create something new, Atmanirbhar has a lot of scope.
Yes. Thanks.
I will say not scope, it has a lot of value.
So, Mr. Rajiv Narayan, so my question is with reference to now that so many products of Chinese products we have banned, so all those, skilled laborers would be required more in our own, kind of national, domestic level, national level. So, on that context, how would you like to, put across your thoughts?
All right. Well, when it comes to China or India versus India and the current situation, etc., I think are far-fetched for the boys and girls in the context in which this webinar is, right? They still have a long way in their life to go and reach a stage where they can understand from the context in which your question is being put. I would like to kind of bring it down a little bit because your question is a little lofted. I'm just keeping in context the audience who are listening to us. What fundamentally matters, right? Sometime back, I went and picked up this Ganesha Lord Krishna idol from a shop. And I was very shocked to see made in China under that. Ooh, we are a country who can't manufacture Lord Krishna statue. I mean, this is crazy. Just because they have come up with a system, Chinese who can manufacture in maximum numbers in the shortest span of time, we are a country who is importing Lord Krishna statues. The fact is, goes back to the element of discipline somewhere. I think when you say Atmanirbhar, as you rightly said, how many of the current youngsters have this feeling that I belong to this country and I need to do something here? It starts from that perspective.
Yes.
I'm not at all saying that people should not go out, they should not get those visas and travel to US and others. I'm not saying that at all. Please go. But have that element that, am I somebody who's contributing for the land that I am from? And Atmanirbhar for me starts from there because that's a fundamental attitude.
Yeah.
You can be, you may be persistent, you may be obscenely passionate after that, you could be having tremendous amount of learning agility, you may be resilient, all that is fine. But the skill which you have picked up, are you using it for making your community Atmanirbhar? If that is what you're doing, then I think you're rising as a youth and becoming an adult quickly. I'm from an adult, you're becoming a mature adult quickly. That's what I think the youth should understand. So when boys like Abhishek, right, and others of his community who go and pick up that saw or pick up that whatever skill they're picking up, somewhere they should think that how do I contribute this to the current state in which our community is. If that is what is happening, then I think the cluster of people that Sriram is battling to get into the system and make them ready for an Atmanirbhar India would get addressed. Till then, how much ever effort Sriram takes, you are going to have KPMG's data coming and hitting at your face time and again. And why is just 20% staying there? Not because it's skill lack. It is because many of them are not persistent to stay with that.
Correct.
And why are they not persistent? Because they do not have resilience. They are not able to take this up and down that they're going through. Somebody comes and tells one word as a feedback, it's taken as a curse, or it's taken as a pointing at you, and they say no. Immediately they drop the hat and say, I'm exiting. And I sometimes wonder, how do they have and where do they get this confidence to exit? Because there is no line of people giving them hundreds of jobs. They have battled their tooth and nail to get this. So should they not be more thankful to the Sriram Ranganathans of the world and stick to what they have got and contribute back? I think that's fundamentally important, right? I think I remember this very powerful statement that Peter Drucker used to make. It comes from a management space, but I'm currently thinking from this boy's perspective also. He says we spend a lot of time in telling the managers what to do. We don't spend time in telling them what not to do. Yes. If you break the sentence into two halves, teaching somebody what to do is skilling. Teaching somebody what not to do is addressing the attitude bit. We are fundamentally missing in that. Fundamentally missing in that. I think if we get that together, maybe we can become a far Atmanirbhar country that we are. So let's not go by the fancy of Atmanirbhar that Modi has come up with. It's a fabulous thought process. I think he has I will give all the credit to him to bring this feeling of nationality, patriotism, etc. in many people, because every citizen after so many years, 75 years, now is able to relate to one man sitting on in that PMO, which we couldn't earlier. Sorry if I'm affecting somebody's political sensitivities here, but I have a very strong feeling everyone can relate to the Prime Minister today. That man is doing everything for us. Let the youth relate to that and say, am I part of this Modi's journey? Am I part of this Atmanirbhar journey? I'm not flavoring this in orange color at all. Though I see orange color behind Preeta, I'm not doing that at all.
Yeah. I'm sure the statement is apolitical in nature. And I'm 100% sure the intention is apolitical. So Sriram, one quick question to you. Which all vocational skills do you think are future skills, are more futuristic in nature? Are there any specific sector that you have identified in your, recruitment process or training process that prospects are more? If Sriram can just answer that.
Yes, Preeta, we do not have, as of now, we are still evolving. As I said, post this COVID era, there are a huge number of layoffs and all in the IT sector. People are laid off and there are companies, organizations closing down. So what we are trying to focus is basically those, courses or those training sectors that can help the rural folks as well. So now we have introduced courses in farming, in agriculture. We have courses in automated tailoring, when you use machine-based tailoring courses for the ladies. We have courses in advanced, learning, like people can learn other languages as well, and you can send them abroad. So people who are doing this plumbing work, this plumbing and all those small kind of works here in India, they earn about 5,000, 6,000 a month here. And if the same person does the same job in Dubai, he earns 10 times the salary. So as Mr. Narayan said, that that fancying of going to US or working abroad is just a short-lived phenomenon. Like you would have heard about the plane crash that happened a few days back in Kerala. Most of the people who have come back were the ones who lost their jobs in about 3 months, 4 months. They do not foresee the future. So we do not as of now have something which is like stable, because the situation is still evolving. Probably 2 months down the line, we would be able to come to a conclusion that yes, these are the courses that I can say will definitely give some prospects for my clientele.
Yes,
I wanted to add something here if I can.
Quickly, 30 seconds, please.
Yeah. See, what we are doing in part of skilling is we are doing something on 3D printing.
Right.
Now, or additive manufacturing. On this, we have now modernized our course to such an extent, or adapted the course to such an extent, that even a non-technical person can do our program.
Right.
And now with a small course which we are adopting, where we can train a person, they operate this 3D printing like a Xerox machine, and you can make jewelry of this. You can make any design you think. Right. Remotely you can make this, and then you can start selling this. So that's one activity which we are doing. Additive manufacturing is now, if you look at Coursera, also 30% of this is course which was done during this lockdown time was additive manufacturing.
Right, correct.
One more area of skilling which we have done is converting waste to wealth. That is, plastic waste, we are now bringing in a machine which we can teach people also how to do that machine, assemble it, and create products out of a plastic bottle which
Yes.
you drink water and throw it out. You can crush it, make it into a raw material, and through the raw material you can make products.
Correct.
Great.
True.
Thank you. On that note, I think we should be, there are a lot of questions coming in, and taking those questions now. So the first question is, whoever thinks that they are capable enough to answer, unless and until it is very specific, may please raise your hands. How can industry and institutions work together to create the next generation of vocational skills in youth? It is both about industry and institutions working together, the overlapping space. Yes, Rajiv Narayan.
I think it's a very powerful question. Whoever asked that, I compliment the person for this question. I was with TVS Motor Company, and one thing that we did very strongly is TVS Motor tied up with PSG Engineering College in Coimbatore, and we picked up boys and girls and gave them training and made them ready to join the dealerships. You have the sales team, you have the service team at dealerships where we need boys, right? We picked up boys with certain level of qualification, trained them, gave them skills, plus also built a lot of attitude in them. We went on to the level of, the sattvic, tamasic, and rajasic behaviors of human beings, went to that level of, understanding. And I was leading it along with a very close colleague of mine. And we saw tremendous improvement in boys and girls in terms of what they were when they came raw to the institute, in terms of maintaining discipline, in terms of cleanliness of their hostel, etc., to what they were when they came out of the course after 1.5 years. Because it's a 1.5 year course, after which they get absorbed by the local dealerships. It was also an opportunity for TVS Motor Company as an OEM to offer ready-made product or talent to the dealership, and they can straight away get onto the job. We did that, and it was a great success. I'm giving this as an example that many organizations like the TVS Motors should come forward in figuring out a method to tie up with the academia and the institution to build capability and offer them as talent back to the small and medium-sized enterprises of India, because that small and medium-sized contributes to about 29% of India's GDP. That is huge, and institutions can play a great role in contributing in alongside with the institution.
Absolutely right.
One more thing we can do is the institutions can do is, like, they can work, invite companies like Mr. Sriram and all that. They have got exclusive training divisions. TVS has got exclusive training divisions where every engineering student has to do a project. the project can be done, right? Taking a problem in a particular place, we call it as quality circle. You can take it as a problem in a particular place, and you can solve the problem. Right? You can create a solution to the problem. Any problem can be solved only with a solution. And to go by this, there are 5 steps to follow. So the students learn these 7 methods, how to solve a problem. Right? And they develop a process. In the process, they develop a material to solve a problem. Now, they multi-material, how they can use. So they learn the strength of material or the material technology, all these things now they learn. So this is one aspect which institutions can tie up. They can give a letter to the students to go and find out projects in the 3rd year itself, and then industries will now support. And industries, I'm sure industries will be too glad, because
Yes,
they will also get good hands.
sorry to cut you short there. So I'm sure TCS has their own modules introduced in engineering colleges.
Yeah, exactly.
HCL has their TechB program, which is a career or a skill-oriented program. So there are definitely a lot of programs which are in collaboration with industry and institute together. On that note, Sriram, a question to you. What is the impact created by NSDC in its truest sense, in the true sense to society? What is the impact?
See, NSDC definitely has created an impact, especially in this last few months, because if you see the data, probably which I can share later, the amount of, jobs that we were able to create because of this upskilling and, cross-skilling in the last 2 months alone in UP, Bihar and Jharkhand is almost 4 lakhs. So I'm talking for all the 4 states together. Now they have been deployed in various areas like railway construction, building construction, government works and so on and so forth. So NSDC is playing definitely a good role. This Atmanirbhar Bharat, as Narayan sir said, it has come into the folklore, and there are more number of Modi followers. So yes, we are able to create a drastic change in these 4 states especially, and we are looking to target more states by the end of this year. So our target for this end of the year is 15 lakh jobs.
Fantastic. Great effort. Great effort.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Sriram. Thanks to know that. Is there any quick note that Mr. Rajiv Narayan that you would like to give on soft skills in vocational skilling, which other than what we had already added on?
I don't have anything specific to pick, but I would want to just call it, as the session is coming to an end, for all the boys and girls listening to this, that as much as they are working on building their skills to plug the growing skill gap in India across multiple industries, let them also be aware that they need to pick up multiple softer skills to be able to work effectively on the functional skills. Let them not take the course as just an entry into a job. They should look at this course as a long-term journey, because they will eventually become foremen, they'll become supervisors, they'll grow to become plant managers, multiple roles they can get into wherever they are. They should look at the longest range of career that they have and invest enough and more beyond the technical and functional skills, with the help of their teachers, with the help of people like Sriram and others. And I think I go back to that one word, they have to be very proactive to pick these.
Thanks.
If they are in urgency to just pick up that skill called I know to hammer the nail, I've learned it 100 times, I hammer it, I get it 99 times on the nail, I'll go get the job, they're wrong.
Thanks, Rajiv Narayan. Thanks on that. So on that note, we are just 1 minute short of our closing up time. So I thank you all, Rajiv Narayan, Sriram and Abhishek in absentia, for your thought-provoking inputs. Before I sum up the discussion, I would like to voice my thoughts as what we as responsible society need to understand, especially when we are talking about vocational skilling. The most important change needs to happen on a cultural and societal level. Skill training should be viewed as a complementary part of mainstream education rather than being regarded as an inferior alternative. Gainful employment through skilled trades needs to be embraced by the wider Indian public and given the respectability and opportunity deserves for true change to be brought about. Meaningful industry participation in skill training programs to ensure that appropriate and necessary skills are being taught, a clear standard and certification system in place, and an appropriately designed and implemented long-term skill development strategy should be also in place. For the learning of the audience, I would also like to share few vocational initiatives by Government of India like PMKVY, NSDC, Skill India, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, Hunar Se Rozgar Tak by the Ministry of Tourism, Ajivika, which is a financial service for sustainable livelihood, schemes for skill training of person with disability, apprenticeship training, craftsman training schemes, ministry-wise skill development schemes, schemes for minorities, and the list goes on. When I am talking about apprenticeship training, I would also like to add there are 4.9 lakh seats available for apprenticeship, but sadly, just about 2.8 lakh apprentices are only trained annually. This is because of the lack of candidates. The clear perspective forward for the youth should be meaningful interactions, willingness to associate and create a collaborative and cooperative workplace, multidisciplinary approach both in the education and industry sector should be the priority, right skill, and as Sri Ram told, cross-skilling and timely upskilling based on relevance through hybrid learning approach, eventually exploring the new opportunities and redefining the workforce. So the takeaway of today's discussions are first, along with functional skills, people skills should also be focused. If functional skills, or if I can call it as technical skills, would get you entry, people skills give you growth. So India must get rich before it gets old. That would be my closing note. Thank you so much.